Pay attention to Samantha Josephson, 21, standing alone outside a college bar in Columbia, South Carolina at 2 a.m. on March 29, 2019. She has 90 minutes left to live. Because Brandon Rowland, 24, a predator circling the streets like a shark hunting prey, is watching her from his black Chevy Impala. On this day, Samantha just wants to get home safely to sleep before work. On this day, Rowland is hunting for a victim who will unknowingly climb into his car. This is the story of 90 minutes that destroyed a family forever. Samantha Josephson was brilliant. Not just smart brilliant. Her outstanding exam results earned her a full scholarship to the University of South Carolina's law school, a dream her parents Robert and Marcy could barely believe had come true. Their daughter, the budding lawyer with the quick wit and infectious laugh, was finally getting everything she'd worked so hard for. She was funny and she liked making other people laugh. Her mother Marcy would later say, her voice breaking. But at the same time, she was very sincere, very kind. If somebody was mean to someone else, she would call them on it. I think that was the budding lawyer in her. Samantha rarely went out. Most nights found her buried in textbooks, preparing for the career she'd dreamed about since childhood. But Thursday, March 28, 2019, was different. Her final year at college deserved celebration. She and her classmates chose the Bird Dog Bar, a popular student hangout in Columbia's Five Points district. 120 miles away in Charleston, her boyfriend Greg Corbishley was at home. They'd been together 2 years, the kind of couple who texted constantly about everything and nothing. What did you have for lunch? What are you doing? Small things, love things. They were always in contact, planning a future that seemed so certain. Around 2 a.m., Samantha decided to head home. She had work in the morning. While her friends stayed to close down the bar at 3 a.m., she stepped outside alone, pulled out her phone, and requested an Uber. The temperature was mild for late March. The streets were busy with other students stumbling between bars. Everything felt safe, normal. She stood by a tree, phone in hand, waiting. She had no idea she was being hunted. On paper, Brandon Rowland was nobody special. 24 years old, living with his girlfriend Ashley Howard in Columbia's Rosewood neighborhood, just another face in the crowd. But beneath that unremarkable surface, Rowland was something else entirely. On the night of March 28th, while his girlfriend slept peacefully at home, he left. Around 1:30 a.m., he slipped out into the darkness, got into his black Chevy Impala, and began driving toward Columbia's Five Points district. He wasn't heading to a bar, he wasn't meeting friends, he was hunting. Surveillance footage would later reveal his vehicle circling the area for 15 minutes, slowing down occasionally, never stopping for long. He drove through parking lots, made U-turns, positioned himself with clear sightlines to the bars. His windows were down despite the cool night air. He was looking for something specific. Someone alone, someone vulnerable, someone who wouldn't ask too many questions before getting into his car. At 2:09 a.m., his headlights found her. Samantha Josephson, standing by a tree, phone glowing in her hand, completely unaware she was being watched. Rowland pulled into a parking spot near the Bird Dog Bar, killed his engine, and waited. Like a shark that had finally found its prey, their paths were about to collide in the worst way imaginable. The surveillance footage is haunting to watch. At 2:09 a.m., a car pulls up near Samantha. She steps toward it, approaching the driver's side, preparing to ask if this is her Uber. The car drives away. Not her ride. She returns to her spot, checks her phone again, still waiting. 1 minute later, at 2:10 a.m., a black four-door Chevy Impala glides up to the curb. Samantha walks directly to the vehicle. No hesitation, no questions. She opens the back door and climbs in. The car drives away. Samantha Josephson is never seen alive again. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that her actual Uber driver was searching for her in a different location. Her ride would be canceled because the driver couldn't find her. But by then, Samantha was already locked inside Brandon Rowland's vehicle, heading in the wrong direction, her phone starting to ping cell towers miles from her intended destination. Greg Corbishley was tracking her, not in a controlling way in the way couples do when distance makes them nervous. They used a safety app that let him see her location, a small comfort in their long-distance relationship. When he checked around 2:15 a.m., his stomach dropped. The dot representing Samantha's phone was moving, but not toward her apartment, not toward anything familiar. It was heading east, away from Columbia, into rural areas he didn't recognize. He called, no answer. He called again, straight to voicemail. He called 20 times. 20 FaceTime attempts, nothing. I'm probably freaking out for no reason, he told himself, staring at the moving dot on his screen. You'll talk to her tomorrow, and there'll probably be a very funny explanation for all of it. But deep down, in the place where fear lives before logic can quiet it, he knew something was terribly wrong. Greg woke at 11 a.m. to 3 missed calls from Emily, Samantha's roommate. His heart was already racing before he called back. She never came home, Emily said. Nobody's seen her since last night. The panic that had whispered to him in the darkness now screamed. He called Samantha's parents immediately. Get home, Marcy told her husband Robert when she received Greg's call. We're going down there. I cannot tell you why I felt that urgency, Marcy would later recall. It was a gut feeling that I needed to get down to my baby. In Columbia, Samantha's friends were already moving. They called every hospital, they checked her computer, and found her Uber request canceled because she never showed up for the pickup. The driver had been looking for her in the wrong spot while she climbed into a stranger's car. By Friday afternoon, one of her friends filed a missing person report. The case was officially open. The clock was ticking. But for Samantha, time had already run out. Greg Corbishley drove the 2 hours from Charleston to Columbia, arriving Friday afternoon. He went straight to the area where his tracking app had last pinged Samantha's phone. He walked. He knocked on doors. He asked strangers if they'd seen anything unusual. Nothing. The breakthrough came not from detectives, but from Samantha's friends. They asked the Bird Dog Bar's manager for surveillance footage. What they discovered sent chills through everyone who watched it. The video clearly showed Samantha entering the bar, having fun with friends, leaving around 2 a.m. Street cameras, captured her standing by a tree, waiting. Then came the moment that changed everything. The black Chevy Impala pulling up, Samantha getting in without hesitation, the car driving away. I remember just having a gut-wrenching feeling, Greg later said. My stomach collapsed and the room went very quiet. The reality of a kidnapping, it starts to really sink in at that point. Your mind starts to come up with crazy scenarios. Investigators reviewed additional footage from statewide security cameras in the Five Points area. What they found was chilling. The black Impala had been circling the area for 15 minutes before picking up Samantha. It would slow down, cruise past bars, make U-turns through parking lots. The behavior was deliberate. Predatory. It felt like the analogy of a shark kind of circling. One detective would later testify until it found the prey it wanted to concentrate on, and then it attacked. Police identified the vehicle as a Chevy Impala and issued a lookout alert. But they needed more. They needed a license plate, a suspect, something concrete. The next break came from Samantha's bank records. In the hours after her disappearance, someone attempted to withdraw cash from her account at an ATM 43 miles from Columbia. Then again, at a different ATM an hour later. Surveillance footage from both locations showed a male figure dressed entirely in black, wearing gloves, face obscured by a tightly pulled hoodie, sunglasses, and a bandana. He was trying desperately to hide his identity. He knew he was being recorded. What he did next was pure evil, attempting to profit from the card of a woman he'd just murdered. Investigators now had a suspect description, ATM locations, and a vehicle model. They were closing in, but they still didn't have a body. They still didn't know if Samantha was alive. That answer came at 2 p.m. on Friday, March 30th. Two turkey hunters were walking through woods in New Zion, a small town east of Columbia. As they headed back to their vehicle, one spotted something between the trees. Something that didn't belong. When he got closer, his blood turned to ice. A body. Female, young. Matching the description of the missing college student all over the news. Samantha Josephson's body was found 70 miles from where she'd been taken. She'd been stabbed nearly 100 times. The brutality was almost incomprehensible. This wasn't a quick death. It was prolonged, violent, savage. The medical examiner would later testify that defensive wounds covered her hands and arms. She'd fought desperately to survive. At midnight on March 30th, Samantha's parents arrived at the police station. They were led into a meeting room. Inside, they saw a long table. Standing next to it was someone with a coroner badge. The moment Marcy Josephson saw that badge, she knew. She broke down in tears. Robert, consumed by rage and grief, smashed a chair. Greg Corbishley entered moments later. When he saw their faces, he didn't need to be told. Robert looks at me, Greg remembered, his voice breaking, and said, "They found her body at 3 p.m. today in the woods. And then she's dead." I felt my legs go completely numb and I collapsed. I didn't want to believe it. But it was true. Samantha was gone. And now, the case shifted from missing person to murder investigation. Nearly every officer in Columbia was now searching for the black Impala. They combed the Rosewood neighborhood where Samantha's phone had last pinged. Nothing. Hours passed. The trail seemed cold. Then, as detectives were leaving Rosewood, driving back toward 5 Points where everything started, they saw it. A black Chevy Impala matching the description exactly, right there on the street. Impossible luck. Or maybe justice finally catching up. The officer activated his lights. "What's going on, sir? You got your license?" The driver, 24-year-old Brandon Rowland, was visibly nervous. His hands shook. When the officer approached the vehicle, he smelled marijuana. "Who's smoking marijuana?" "I smoked some earlier, sir, when I was at home." "All right, man. You gotta step on out." The moment Rowland stepped from the vehicle, he bolted. Ran like a man who knew exactly what was waiting for him. The officer released his K9. "Hey, get over here. I'm gonna release the dog." The dog caught him within seconds, taking him down hard. Rowland was handcuffed, screaming, defeated. Inside the vehicle, officers found a pink phone, a USB drive, keys with a tag reading room clearly belonging to a female student. And when they opened the back door and shined a flashlight inside, they found what they'd been looking for. Blood everywhere. Large quantities of blood on the seats, the insides of the doors, on the headrests, the back of the driver's seat, the officer would later testify. There was blood everywhere. They had their killer. Brandon Rowland was brought to the station. Detectives tried questioning him, hoping for a confession, an explanation, anything. "Brandon, it's me. You've been asleep? When's the last time you went to sleep?" "Silence. If you're too sleepy to talk to me, too tired to talk to me, I want you to tell me. So I'm going to jail and I don't even know. I think there's information you could provide that would be very helpful. I think you need to..." Nothing. He refused to speak, refused to explain, refused to show an ounce of remorse. "I challenge you," the detective said, leaning forward, "to think hard about the last couple of days. I challenge you to tell the truth. I challenge you to show some remorse." Rowland just stared at the table. Silent, cold, empty. While Rowland stayed silent, detectives contacted his girlfriend, Ashley Howard. She agreed immediately to come to the station. What she told them was devastating. On the night of March 28th, Rowland was home when she fell asleep around 1:30 a.m. When she woke for work at 7 a.m., he was gone. He showed back up around 7:45 or 8 a.m. That gave him 6 to 7 hours unaccounted for, more than enough time to commit murder. But it got worse. When she saw his car later that day, something was wrong. "It just looked like something was cleaned," Ashley testified. "I was like, what did you clean?" He said, "I had to clean the car." I was like, "Why?" He said, "My car smelled like Corona, like if I light a cigarette, I'm gonna blow up." Then came the question that would haunt her forever. "How much blood did you see?" "A lot." "Did you call 911? "No, I was scared." With a search warrant for Ashley's home, police found everything they needed. In trash bags in the backyard, Rowland's blood-stained clothes, cleaning supplies, paper towels soaked with Samantha's blood, the same ones he'd used to wipe down his car, and the weapon, a multi-purpose tool covered in Samantha Josephson's blood. Police also discovered Rowland had visited cell phone shops the day after the murder, attempting to sell Samantha's rose gold iPhone. Surveillance footage from those shops matched the clothing worn by the man at the ATM specifically, a hoodie with distinctive white drawstrings. That same hoodie was found in the trash, stained with blood. Every piece of evidence pointed to one inescapable conclusion. Brandon Rowland had circled the 5 Points area like a predator, spotted Samantha standing alone, pulled up beside her in his Impala, and waited for her to get in. When she did, thinking he was her Uber driver, he locked the doors. What happened next was pure evil. Samantha fought. God, how she fought. Shoe impressions were found on the back window where she'd tried to kick her way out. Defensive wounds covered her hands and arms. But Rowland was bigger, stronger, armed. He stabbed her nearly 100 times in a prolonged, brutal attack. When she finally stopped breathing, he drove her body 70 miles to New Zion and dumped her in the woods. Then he drove home, cleaned his car, went to sleep next to his girlfriend, and tried to sell his victim's phone the next day. The evidence against Brandon Rowland was overwhelming. His trial was straightforward. The jury took little time deliberating. Guilty on all counts: kidnapping, murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Samantha's parents and Greg Corbishley broke down in the courtroom. "Honestly, I just wanted to stand up and scream," Marcy Josephson said later. But the victory felt hollow. Justice, yes, but their daughter was still gone. "He's taken my daughter," Marcy said through tears. "He's taken my dreams of being a grandmother to Samantha's kids. Just all my dreams for her. He's taken a lot. He's taken my trust in the world. In the wake of Samantha's death, her family fought for change. They pushed for Sammy's Law, requiring rideshare vehicles to display illuminated signs so passengers can verify their ride before getting in. The law passed in South Carolina and inspired similar legislation nationwide. At the University of South Carolina, hundreds gathered to honor Samantha. Friend after friend spoke, each calling her their best friend. That spoke volumes about the kind of amazing person she was, one attendee noted. Samantha Josephson was 21 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her law school, a career fighting for justice, a future with Greg, children who would have had her quick wit and kind heart. Brandon Rowland took all of that in 90 minutes of unspeakable violence. He sits in prison now, separated from society, unable to harm anyone else. But for Samantha's family, for Greg, for everyone who loved her, the pain never ends. She was funny and kind and brilliant, Marcy Josephson said, and he took her from us for no reason at all. That's what I'll never understand. There was no reason. She was just standing there, waiting for a ride home. Asterisk, asterisk, this is what happens when evil finds opportunity. This is why we check our rides. This is why we stay vigilant. This is why we remember Samantha Josephson, not as a victim, but as the brilliant, funny, kind young woman she was before a predator in a black Impala destroyed everything. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. In memory of Samantha Josephson, 1997 to 2019, asterisk. Asterisk, she puts her mind to something, she could do it, asterisk.